members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, Bolognak, very good morning to you all. You may have seen in Saturday's papers and in the ministry's social media platforms the advertisement for 3 new programs now being administered by the ministry for this financial year, 2023 to 2024. The programs are Seafarers Entrepreneurial Assistance, Rural Housing Assistance Program, and a Rural and Outer Island Development Program. Firstly, ladies and gentlemen, let me put things into perspective in the context of the ministry's broader rural development priorities. The following are the ministry's development priorities so far: access to clean and safe water, access to safe and adequate shelter and sanitation facilities, improve community access and rural roads, improve communication, improve transportation, wealth creation, establishment of growth centers, and incubation of rural development models. The 3 new programs will complement the existing ministry's programs of self-help, community access roads, footpaths and footbridges, and high-risk water and sanitation programs. These new programs have resulted in an increase in the ministry's budget for the capital development program by $6 million due to the following: the Seafarers Entrepreneurial Assistance Scheme, which is $0.5 million, Rural Housing Assistance, $3 million, and Rural and Outer Island Program is $2.5 million. This is indeed a boost to the ministry's efforts to implement strategies that will contribute to our consolidated effort of reducing poverty and reduce rural to urban drift, improve livelihoods, and enhance economic growth in the rural and maritime areas. Let me talk very briefly about each of the programs. The Seafarers Entrepreneurial Assistance Program was initially introduced in the Ministry of Finance 2 years ago, the financial year 2020 to 2021, with the intention to subsidize the purchase of fully equipped and operational fiberglass for Fijians living in the maritime regions. The subsidy was a $10,000 grant to be paid to 50 recipients of communities that were selected beforehand. The Seafarers Entrepreneurial Program is expected to improve transport accessibility in the rural and maritime communities, as well as improving access to markets. The boats to be procured will include life-saving equipment. In the first financial year, 2020 to 2021, the government assisted 16 applicants from the communities in Watulele, Naviti, Nadula, Taviuni, Kioa, Benga, Oneilau, Kambara, Wonovatu, Nayau, Moala, Namukilau, Wonombalabu, Mode, Ongea, and Divia. In the second year, the financial year 2022-2023, only 2 applicants were assisted, who were from Yanuda and Matuku. The ministry is looking forward to scale up this assistance, particularly to our remote rural and maritime communities, with a high expectation that it will foster a culture of entrepreneurship by promoting a safe and inclusive environment for traveling and business venture in the maritime region. The ministry has invited applications for this assistance. I would like to highlight that there is a slight change in the program. In particular, the assistance is targeted at any community in the maritime, coastal, and riverbank communities, and applications can be either individual or community. Applicants will be required to pay their 1/3 contribution in cash and can be either for boat only, engine only, or boat and engine. The boat can either be wooden or fiberglass. A key requirement is having a Class 6 boat master license and fishing license if the purpose of the boat is for fishing. The cost of the boat and engine would range between $21,200 to $26,200 depending on the type of boat and engine capacity. So a person would be paying between $7,100 to $8,800 as 1/3, and the government will pay the balance depending on the limited budget that we have. The Rural Housing Assistance Scheme. I will now turn to the Rural Housing Assistance Program. It was assigned to the Ministry of Housing since the financial year 2018 to 2019. Earlier this year, the government has decided to revert the program back to this ministry. The broad objectives of the revamped Rural Housing Assistance Program are to promote safe, resilient, adequate and affordable housing for the rural and maritime areas, reduce disaster risks for rural vulnerable communities in these areas, provide affordable shelter to the remote deprived rural dwellers, and facilitate access to basic utilities and critical services, provide disabled-friendly shelter to our vulnerable communities, and provide capacity building opportunities to assist members of the rural communities to build resilient and safe houses. You may wonder why government is providing assistance in this area. This is aligned well to the objectives of the National Disaster Risk Reduction Policy 2018-2023 in terms of mainstreaming disaster risk reduction into every level of development policies, planning and programs. This is also based on the last post-disaster needs assessment report for the Tropical Cyclone Evan in 2012 and Tropical Cyclone Winston in 2016, where significant value of damages were noted in the housing sector with an estimated $46.9 million recorded under TC Evan to a massive $751 million recorded under TC Winston. A total of 30,369 houses were destroyed or damaged during TC Winston, of which 17,891 or 59% were in the Western Division. Also in 2016, the housing sector sustained the greatest damage, accounting for more than 58% of the total damage costs. Despite unavailability of housing damages in the rural areas in the report, this paper assumed it incurred the most damages due to the TC Winston cyclone track towards the rural areas. In recent years, the occurrence and intensity of natural disasters have increased. The country was faced with a Category 4 tropical cyclone and a Category 5 tropical cyclone in less than 12 months. This caused a lot of damages to the housing sector, thus the need for government to continue to invest in this area. This revamped rural housing development program is aimed at prioritizing assistance to those that are permanently residing in villages and rural settlements. It will focus on those applicants. 1, who do not own a home or first-time owners. 2, whose house was damaged from previous natural disasters and need assistance for new house construction or repair and retrofitting. 3, who own a house that requires addressing safety issues for vulnerable family members such as the elderly, disabled, women and children through the extension of the existing houses to include kitchen, toilet and bathroom facilities. 4, who own a house that requires retrofitting. 5, who need assistance for cartage of housing materials given his or her remote location from the business centers. So there are 5 schemes under this program targeting Fiji's rural population, which is defined as an area outside the municipality boundaries. The details for the schemes are outlined as follows. Scheme 1, this involves the cartage of housing materials. Applicants will be required to procure their own building materials. Assistance will be provided to cut provided the cost of the materials are $30,000 minimum. This could be subject to change based on the nature of applications we expect to receive. Scheme 2, this scheme requires the applicant to pay 1/3 contribution in cash, while the ministry pays 2/3 of the total project costs. The scheme is targeted at individual applicants. Assistance is offered with the following options. 1, a newly built house construction using an approved design of 24 feet by 16 feet and 24 feet by 18 feet house plans. Extension of an existing structure. That's another alternative, which includes the attachment of sanitation and kitchen facilities, the maximum cost of $7,000. Third one is retrofitting of an existing structure to withstand Category 4 and Category 5 tropical cyclones, the maximum cost of $5,000, and completion of an existing structure, maximum cost of $10,000. Scheme 3, this scheme is mainly to target those timber resource owners with either pine schemes, native tree resource owners, or lease beneficiary holders who can use these resources as their 1/3 contribution. The ministry, through an integrated approach, will partner with the Ministry of Forestry in terms of tree felling, logging, training. The other partner will be Habitat for Humanity Fiji for rural carpentry training. The community will provide their timber house structures as their contribution, while the government will provide hardware materials. This scheme is targeting those communal applicants, namely villages Toka Toka, Matangali, Oyabusan. Scheme 4, the ministry will continue to assist beneficiaries under the Poverty Alleviation or Social Welfare Housing Scheme who need assistance with the construction of new houses. This scheme will adopt the same Category 4 open house design and costs with additional disability-friendly facilities like the provision of ramps, enlargement for toilets and shower facilities, provision of handrails and enlargement of doors to accommodate wheelchairs and necessary devices. Under this scheme, the government will provide total funding, while the recipient's contribution would be in kind through labor support from the community. This scheme is targeted at disabled applicants, single mothers, senior citizens, vulnerable groups, and social welfare recipients. And Scheme 5, this wasn't put out in the papers, but it's available and it's a one-off thing. It's to focus on outstanding housing assistance for former workers of Emperor Gold Mine. There are only 5 now that are left out of the 12 initial beneficiaries who preferred to use their entitlements for home improvements. So once this is completed, this will be phased out. Members of the public should now be aware that the Ministry is also working with the Ministry of Public Works for improvements to the housing designs to elevate the 24 by 16 house design to Category 4 and Category 5 tropical cyclone standards. It's targeting over 150 housing projects in the first financial year, depending on factors such as availability of material, labor, and weather conditions. These targets will be subject to revision in the second year of implementation once the Ministry rolls out the program using the first year data as baseline information to properly estimate the current demand on the ground for this program. The Ministry will also organize a technical working group which comprises representatives from the Ministry of Housing, Ministry of Forests, Ministry of Finance, Office of the Prime Minister, the Fiji National Provident Fund and Housing Authority to work with the Ministry in the finalization of a guideline for the implementation of the Rural Housing Assistance Program. The technical working group will assist the Ministry in the selection of applicants for assistance. The Divisional Commissioner's Office will assess applications received which will be subjected to the technical working group for vetting and recommendation to the Permanent Secretary for approval. The Rural and Outer Island Development Program. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now provide some information on the ROI program. As you may be aware, the ROI development program, which was previously administered and implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture, focused initially on enhancing public-private partnership empowerment for rural farmers and market-driven focus. The specific initial objectives of the program were to enhance the livelihoods of people in the rural areas and the outer islands, increase market access opportunities and services in the rural areas and outer islands. These objectives remain relevant, and this ROI program will further complement Ministry of Agriculture, but will focus more on land preparation and market access through collection centers, particularly for our subsistence farmers. The Ministry, through consultation with our key line ministries, is also considering other sectors to be included in designing the program. This is important for economic development, tapping into the great potential out there in our rural and maritime areas, as well as minimizing the risk of investing in one basket only. Access to basic infrastructure such as proper roads, water supply, electricity, communication networks, transport and market access is always a challenge in the rural areas. It is further exacerbated by the impact of climate change and intensity of natural disasters over the years. The ROI program is expected to assist the Ministry of Agriculture in terms of improving agricultural productivity. It is well known that our rural areas are agriculture driven, with most of the land resources owned by the resource owners. Based on the 2020 agriculture census, a total of 105,388 hectares, or 54% of all farmlands, are owned under traditional tenureship, followed by native lease, 24%, freehold, 14%, state lease, 6%, and occupied land with informal arrangements and without legal arrangements, 2%. Of these total farmland areas, only 13,722 hectares, or 7% of the area, were planted, and another 12,430 hectares, 6%, were idle for more than 1 year. Of the total number of agricultural households, 70,991, only 7,369, 10%, has been using small machineries, and 2,673, 4%, has been using heavy machinery. Of the total farmers that use excavators, around 60% usually hiring the machine, 34% own their machine, and 5% either borrow or use it on a shared basis. Therefore, over the years, more effort has been made to increase productivity, but little focus has been given towards the resource owners of the land. They are either streamlined in terms of accessing capital and finance, or being incentivized through small machineries and heavy machineries through hiring on an hourly basis. Feedback from key export players, Agriculture Marketing Authority, Benz Trading, for example, revealed that export demands have not been met for the last few years due to a low supply of production from farmers. Based on thorough consultations with relevant agencies, the Ministry's Rural Development Program will complement the assistance currently provided to agriculture, fisheries, forestry, communication, and infrastructure sector due to the cross-cutting nature of the program. This is also based on the results of consultations that the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Fisheries and Forestry cannot address most of these rural development issues alone, and really need the cooperation and assistance of other line ministries that are heavily involved in rural development. Therefore, the overarching objectives and outcomes of the RAID program are as follows. 1, to improve living standards through more economic empowerment activities. 2, to improve rural infrastructure. 3, to improve market access. 4, to promote more value-adding activities. 5, to promote community resilience through disaster risk reduction and risk-informed development. And 6, to conduct more awareness and training. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll briefly discuss these 6 strategies before I conclude. The Ministry is of the view that the starting point for any rural transformation is through increasing agricultural productivity. Therefore, providing access towards heavy machinery is crucial, particularly in terms of unlocking those huge potentials of agricultural land, 54% that I mentioned earlier, that are located within the traditional ownership tenure. The Ministry, with close consultation with the Ministry of Agriculture, will complement their efforts towards assisting our subsistence farmers in terms of land preparation. It's an activity that usually requires more time and effort for our rural farmers to manually clear their agricultural land through manual forms of knives and forks, despite the existing traditional sole-sole-vaque approach. The difference is clearly evident between agricultural areas that are under lease arrangements and are able to use heavy machinery compared to those areas under the traditional ownership that are cleared and tilled manually. Most of subsistence farmers will never graduate to semi-commercial and commercial farming unless and until they can have access to heavy machinery such as excavators. And this approach is expected to significantly increase our subsistence farmers' ability to increase production, increase their income potential, and overall contribution to the agricultural sector to GDP. Excavators' assistance towards DRR and disaster rehabilitation activities. We also will be using the same machinery due to our disaster management role in this ministry. Its investments towards this heavy machinery will also assist towards meeting the significant number of requests usually received through our divisional commissioners in terms of clearing block drains, upgrading, repairing community access roads, farm roads, and seawalls through nature-based solutions. The empowerment of our divisional commissioners on this front will provide greater benefits for our rural communities, as well as addressing those development issues right there at the divisional level in a timely manner. With the collection centers, with the anticipation of increase in production, the program also needs to ensure that additional collection centers will be stationed in various strategic locations where subsistence farmers and buyers can easily converge to do their sales. We'll also be facilitating with assisting the Ministry of Fisheries of the fisheries sector with blast freezers. Based on the consultation with the Ministry of Fisheries, there is a need for Roy Development Program to provide blast freezers targeting our maritime areas. Feedback received from most maritime communities is in terms of capacity and the ability of their freezers to maintain the freshness of their produce before the next shipping schedule. The Roy Development Program will also provide assistance towards fishing aggregate devices and will work closely with the Ministry of Fisheries on this option to ensure sustainability. We will also be facilitating the provision of carving machines for our forestry sector. Based on the consultation with Ministry of Forestry, there's a need for Roy development programs to provide more assistance towards our maritime communities to have access to more portable carving tools. Over the years, our maritime communities were neglected in terms of accessing portable power tools for more value-adding activities. Such assistance will now enable these maritime communities to receive more income through their value-added products. So the revamped Roy Development Program will also have a stringent pre- and post-implementation analysis to ascertain the impact of the intervention, which will help improve the evolution of the program for the benefit of rural and maritime Fiji.